History often arrives with noise, with speeches, with crowds, with conflict that fills headlines. But some of the most powerful moments in history arrive quietly. No warning, no applause, no audience. They happen in ordinary places, on ordinary days, because of ordinary people who make an extraordinary choice. This is one of those stories. It is the story of Rosa Parks and a single decision that changed the United States forever. A nation built on contradictions, by the middle of the 20th century, the United States stood as a symbol of freedom to the world. It spoke proudly about liberty, about democracy, about equal opportunity, but within its own borders, a contradiction existed. Millions of Americans lived under laws that separated them based on race. Schools were divided, restaurants were divided, neighborhoods were divided, and public transportation was no exception. Segregation was not a misunderstanding. It was enforced by law, the rules that controlled daily life. In many American cities, buses were divided into sections. White passengers sat in the front, black passengers sat in the back. If the bus became crowded, black passengers were required to stand, even if they had been seated first. Refusal meant arrest. These rules were enforced not by mobs but by systems, quietly, routinely, every day. And because they were routine, they were rarely questioned. Who Rosa Parks was before history noticed, Rosa Parks was not famous. She was not wealthy. She was not protected by power. She was a working woman. She had responsibilities, bills to pay, a life shaped by discipline and dignity. She understood the rules. She had followed them many times before. Nothing about her life suggested that history was waiting for her, and that is what makes this story powerful. An ordinary evening. The day began like countless others. Rosa Parks finished work and boarded a city bus. She sat in the section designated for black passengers. The bus continued its route. More people boarded. Everything felt normal. No one expected what would happen next. The command. As the bus filled, a white passenger boarded. The driver looked back. Then came the command. Rosa Parks was told to give up her seat. It was a moment designed to pass quickly, a moment that had passed quietly hundreds of times before. But this time, it didn't. The decision Rosa Parks did not argue. She did not shout. She did not insult anyone. She simply refused to stand. Her voice was calm, her posture steady. It was not an act of anger. It was an act of dignity. In that instant, she did something radical. She treated herself as equal. Consequences without violence. The bus stopped. Authorities were called. Rosa Parks was arrested, not for violence, not for disruption, not for chaos, but for remaining seated. The simplicity of the charge revealed the cruelty of the law. A moment that traveled faster than expected. News of the arrest spread quickly. People talked, not in outrage at first, but in disbelief. Why should a person be punished for sitting? Why should dignity be illegal? A question began to form in the minds of thousands. When a community moved together, the response was not violent, it was strategic. People chose to stop riding the buses. They walked instead. Day after day, week after week, rain, heat, fatigue, empty buses rolled through the streets. Something unprecedented was happening. The power of silence. There were no riots, no destruction, just absence. The absence of passengers, the absence of compliance. And that silence spoke louder than any protest ever could. Why this worked? The boycott revealed something important. Systems depend on participation. When people withdraw their participation peacefully, systems begin to fail. Not because they are attacked, but because they are exposed. Pressure builds. As days turned into weeks, pressure mounted. Businesses felt the loss. City officials took notice. The nation began to watch. A moment that began on a single bus had grown into a movement. The boycott lasted over a year. Eventually, the rules were challenged and overturned. Segregation on public buses was ruled unconstitutional. The law changed, but more importantly, so did the country. Rosa Parks did not seek fame. She did not seek power. She continued to live with humility, but her name became synonymous with courage. Not loud courage, quiet courage, the kind that changes everything. Why this moment matters today. This story is not just about the past. It is about how change truly happens. Not through rage alone, not through violence, but through clarity. Through knowing when to say no. The myth of the perfect hero. Rosa Parks was not fearless. She was human. She understood the risks. That's what makes her a hero. Heroism is not the absence of fear. It is acting with dignity despite it. A nation forced to look at itself. America could no longer ignore its contradiction. It spoke of freedom, but practiced division. That quiet moment forced a reckoning, not overnight, but permanently. How history really changes history rarely changes because people are ready. It changes because someone refuses to accept what everyone else has normalized. That refusal creates friction, and friction creates movement. The legacy of a single seat on a bus became a symbol, not of conflict, but of conscience. A reminder that laws can be unjust, and that obedience is not the same as morality. The final question. Rosa Parks didn't know she would change history. She only knew one thing. She deserved dignity. And that belief reshaped a nation. So the question remains, when history looks back on our time, which quiet decisions will it remember? The power of stillness. Rosa Parks didn't change America by standing up. She changed it by remaining seated. And in doing so, she proved something timeless. That sometimes the most powerful act is simply refusing to move. Subscribe for more content like this